Good morning and welcome back to In the Trenches with Dr. Tammy. I want to start this episode out by saying that it is perfectly okay to not be okay. You see, this has been a very rough, and I do mean rough, couple of days. There's a lot been going on with family and others in my life in which people have reached out. People are in need. People are hurting. And because of who it is that I am, I'm always willing to have a listening ear and a helping hand if I possibly can. The issue with that is because I am an empath, I take on all of that hurt and pain that sometimes people have, and I carry that with me. And I won't say that it's a burden because it's not. I do sometimes need to take a moment just for myself to self reflect, to regroup. So I'm saying to you this morning that it is perfectly okay for you to take a moment. Take a moment for you, take a moment to regroup, because if you're not at your best, then you certainly cannot be your best for anyone else. So remember, it is perfectly okay to not be okay. And this morning, despite the smile on my face, I am not 100% okay, but I showed up for me. And that's what I challenge you to do. I challenge you this morning to show up for you, because we always show up for everybody else. We need to take a moment to show up for ourselves. Now, with that being said, let's move on to the main topic of today's episode. In my very first podcast, I provided you with an introduction to myself. I spoke about my children, my experiences, some great, some not so great, educational experiences that I've had, many things. But today, I am going to focus on one of those not so great experiences, because I was recently asked to give a little bit more information about that relationship that I was in for quite a long time. You see, as I thought more about it this morning, this is probably the best morning to do so. When I'm not feeling absolutely 100% okay, this is a time that I can show up not just for me, but I can show up for you as well, because if I share more of that story with you all, then maybe, just maybe, someone will walk away from that saying, wow, if she made it to the other side of that, then I can make it to the other side of whatever it is that I have going on in my life at this very moment. So as I began to talk more about that relationship, I want to read something to you that I posted in my group earlier this week. And that way we can transition right into what it is that I need to share with you today. It was then I realized it was never about you. It was me. I needed to forgive myself, not because you were without blame, but because I was a fool for seeing you as something other than what you truly are. So I'm going to begin there. I wouldn't say that I was absolutely a fool. I will say that I was foolish and not seeing the red flags. Someone asked me, how on earth could you remain in a 14 plus year relationship with someone who never married you? That's the first part. And the second part was, what was the last straw? So we'll begin with saying that in that time, in that relationship, in that 14 plus year relationship, I was a believer. You can call it what you want, but I was a believer. I believed in the things that were said. Key words, said, not always done. As I look back on that time, there were definitely times in which I should have taken a pause. Time in which I should have said, this math ain't mathing, as a friend of mine once said. You see, he traveled for work a lot. And we, of course, lived in two different states. So that made some things easier for him. For example, he might say to me, hey, I'm really tired this weekend. I'm just going to stay in and rest all weekend. So I'm probably not going to make it this weekend for our trip. Can we plan for the next weekend or the weekend after that? Because we were trying to see each other, I thought, at least twice a month. Well, it turns out that on those weekends in which he was rescheduling the time with me, he had scheduled time with one or more other ladies. I laugh about that now because I should have been like, wait a minute. However, because I am a believer in what people say as opposed to what they are actually doing at that time, I wasn't putting two and two together. I believed that he was most definitely tired and that he needed rest. Clearly, there was not any resting going on, as I found out later. What I found out, which I find to be in this moment, something that could actually be a Lifetime movie, which we might need to look into doing. There were definitely other ladies. There was houses. There were cars, all of which were not with me, all of which I had no idea actually existed. I find that I believed things because I probably wanted to believe. I probably wanted to believe that this gentleman was going to do all of the things that we discussed, that we planned. But as things changed, unbeknownst to me, it wasn't shared with me. I think, not that I think, I know that it's imperative for people to let someone else know when they're looking at a different direction or there's something that's giving them pause. It's important to share that information with the other person because without that, a person like me or you cannot, absolutely cannot make an informed decision about what it is that you'd like to do moving forward. There is absolutely no way that I would have agreed to be on what I hear the younger generation call a roster. I have taught math, and I'm going to say this, and you can laugh about it if you want, but when it comes to a relationship, I can't add beyond one when it comes to being more than one woman. So if there is more than one of me, I need to be shared that information with so that I can make my exit. You can't, or should I say you shouldn't, lead someone on or allow them to believe things that you know you're not going to do. You see, I've known that man my entire life. Grew up together, separated, of course, after high school, and then reconnected, as you heard from my first episode. So to believe that he would re-enter my life and behave in such a dishonest manner was absolutely shocking to me. But that's kind of how that went down. You see, we had some really, really good times. And those were the times in which I held on to when I should have been paying closer attention to the things that were changing around me at times. And I know that's hard for people to understand or even grasp. But so many people do it out of fear for maybe not wanting to change. Or I heard someone say earlier in the week that they're comfortable with where they are. Because I asked another question in my group, why do people hold on to relationships that they don't want? And in my mind, as I think back on it, this gentleman clearly didn't want this relationship with me. He wanted a relationship or a situationship with many, many women. The second part of that question was, what was the last straw? Well, the last straw was when I found out, in addition to there being women, this gentleman had fathered a child in which he hid for almost 5 years from me. And I was absolutely shocked. I want to say surprised, but shocked and disappointed. Because again, as such a foolish, that's what we're going to call me, a foolish lady, I had entertained and implemented a plan of rearing a child or conceiving a child with this gentleman. And those of you who know me already know this information. And if you don't, you'll read about it in the book. So let's just go ahead and get it out there. So for me, the absolute audacity of him to father a child with someone when we were trying to have one as well. Make it make sense is what the young folks say. So I'm going to say that as well. Make it make sense. So as you watch this episode today and you look at my face, I am able to laugh about it because I experienced every single emotion that there ever was when all of this came to light. You know, I was upset. I was heartbroken. If you're going to be honest about it, I was hurt. I absolutely grieved the death of that relationship. People think that you only grieve someone physically dying, but I grieved the death of what I thought that relationship was, what I thought it meant to the both of us. And it turns out that I was the only one who was actually still true to what we had planned, to what we were working towards. And as I look back on it, I find that still deplorable. But in my present and current life, it's okay because it was clearly a lesson that I needed to learn. And as I look back even further on it, it was not only a lesson, but it was a blessing because, let's just say hypothetically speaking, I had actually married this gentleman because we were engaged. Married this gentleman who was a pretender. How long was he going to continue to pretend while married to me? How many children were going to be fathered? How many lies were going to be told? I don't know. Who knows? But I'm no longer in that situation, and I am absolutely thankful for that. And that in and of itself is a blessing. So as I share those few things with you, so many, many more to share as we talk more about that situation from my past. I want you to know that whether you consider that experience to be one in which you think I was a fool, and maybe I was. Just know that I haven't given up on the possibility of love for me. I haven't. Many people say, well, you should be bitter. You should be angry. No, I shouldn't. I'm not giving anybody that much power over my life. He's moved on with whatever it is that he's got going on. I need to do the same thing. And so I did. Absolutely, I did. I have to make sure that this lady is okay. And I'm asking that you do the same, that no matter how much someone does or how much you believe that you should stick around, if it's hurtful to you and doesn't bring you peace or joy, then it's probably not for you. I'm not preaching to you. I'm definitely not judging because I am in no place to do so. I am saying to you that it is still okay not to be okay, but you must absolutely, absolutely make sure that you take care of you. Don't hurt anybody. That's not what I'm saying. Don't be spiteful, vengeful, not saying any of those things. What I'm saying is love on you too. Because what is for you is for you. And it is definitely on the way. As for me, it's on the way. I can smile because I know that whoever God has made for me, he's out there right now. He is praying for me. He is praying that I am able to notice him when he presents himself to me. And if you're out there watching this, sir, I'm absolutely ready. God bless each and every one of you. My prayer for you is that this horrible situation shed some light on who it is that I have been, what direction I'm looking to go, and prayerfully that it had an impact on you that allows you to see that you can move on in life, that no matter how difficult a situation feels or was, there is still light at the end of the tunnel, and you can still smile. Because look at this smile. This girl, this lady, she's moving on. She is happy. She will eventually have love. And she is absolutely okay with all of that. Happy Friday. Much love.